Let's bring in Caitlin Huey-Burns. She's a CBSN political contributor and a national political reporter for RealClearPolitics. Good to see you.
Hi, good morning.
So let's start with Ivanka Trump, who you just saw. You couldn't hear it very well on that tape, but she was getting booed, she was getting hissed at those remarks in Germany. The questioner, the person who was questioning her, is an editor of a German newspaper. And at one point she said, the German audience is not that familiar with the concept of a first daughter. I'd like to ask you, what is your role? Who are you representing? Your father as president of the United States, the American people, or your business? Very aggressive line of questioning. And Ivanka, the same Trump family line. It's the media perpetuating the fact that my father has these issues with women.
Right, exactly. And actually, that question is a question being posed here in the United States. What exactly is Ivanka's role in this administration? Yes, she was brought on in an official capacity. Yes, she's been talked about as that kind of calming influence on her father, as someone who's going to be working specifically on kind of women's issues. But we haven't yet seen any evidence of either of those things being fully implemented yet. We're 100 days in, but still haven't seen that kind of tempered persona. So the questions being asked there are very much questions being asked here. This is remarkable because this is her first event abroad in this official capacity representing the White House. And it speaks to how these issues are not just relegated to domestic issues here at home. The president's persona, the president's things that happened on the campaign trail, that came up during the campaign trail, are still continuing. The media is not perpetuating it at all. These are things that
actually
he said.
And it's funny because in response to that question directly, what is your role, she gave a similar answer on this panel that she did to Gayle King, which was basically, I'm figuring it out.
Right, exactly. And so if you're a taxpayer, I don't know if that's the exact response you would want to hear. And this also comes, we have to remember that there are so many administrative positions yet to be filled, and yet you have Ivanka Trump, Jared Kushner, of course, really playing these close roles to the president when you have all of these positions that need to be filled, very key positions, undersecretaries at various agencies and such, and we're 100 days in, and the president and the White House have said that Democrats are slowing the process, but he hasn't nominated a lot of people for these roles yet, so you can't really blame Congress on that.
It's interesting, Trump administration officials have tried to liken what President Trump is doing with Jared Kushner and Ivanka as something similar to what President Kennedy did with his brother Bobby Kennedy when he became Attorney General. Ultimately, the youngest brother, Teddy Kennedy, became a senator. But I don't want to draw too sharp of a contrast, but those folks were in public service for many, many years before even President Kennedy got elected. It's a little different when you have people who have no government experience, who are still, in some cases, responsible for their business empires, now going out and representing the president, when, as you point out, Caitlin, that he hasn't filled these other positions that are more important.
That's right, and nepotism laws arose from those agreements also, right? So I think that there are lots of questions, especially as Jared Kushner's portfolio expands nearly weekly, it seems. And we haven't really heard from him. I mean, we never hear from Jared Kushner in public, which is fine. Senior advisors play, just that role inside the White House, but he has a lot of things on his plate, and the public is not yet aware of his capabilities in that capacity.
Yeah, we really haven't heard much from him at all, but I want to ask you now about some of the news of the day. The president has done something that's very interesting. He scaled back on his demand that the wall with Mexico be paid for in the budget. No one wants to see a government shutdown. That's what we're looking down the barrel of. And so he's decided to take that off the table. Many Democrats were not in favor of it. Many Republicans were a little uncomfortable with it. But I'm curious, what do you think the spin is going to be? Because this was, one of his top campaign promises.
Right. This is interesting because you have Lindsey Graham, senator from South Carolina, champion of immigration reform, saying that the wall was always kind of this metaphor. And it's true. If you talk to some Trump supporters on the campaign, as both of you did, as I did, a lot of them thought, tougher border security, tougher anti-immigration stances were part of that. But you also have to look.
And that's Graham's quote there. That's really, this is not getting a lot of play, but this is pretty big to say that there will never be a wall built.
But contrast that with what the president said in an interview with the Associated Press a couple of days ago when he said 100% this wall is being built. So you have these contrasts at play here.
But Lindsey Graham, a very outspoken critic of the president, we should say that, right?
Right, exactly. Yeah. But as you mentioned, the government shutdown could come, the day before the 100th day in office. This is the last thing that this White House wants to do. And you mentioned Republicans. It's not just Democrats who are opposed to this wall. Republicans say, yes, we want to support tougher border security. We don't want to shut down the government over this. They have seen the political fallout that comes with that, and it's not something that's key. They just kind of want to get the government up and running and deal with these things later.
Do any of your sources on the Hill say to you that they expect that Mexico will pay for this wall?
I haven't heard. I haven't heard anybody confirm that. I mean, and you even hear now the president saying maybe at a later date they're going to pay for it eventually. I will say that Republicans on Capitol Hill have made the point that there are a lot of theatrical elements involved in campaigning, right? That Trump had this kind of shouting back and this kind of thing shtick with the crowd and such like that. But they are not thinking that Mexico is going to support this wall.
All right, we'll see.
Caitlin Huey-Burns, thank you so much.
Good to see you. Thanks.